In my view, strong, robust, and sustainable national health authorities are critically important to domestic and global public health, and particularly protection against infectious diseases and global health security writ large. Um, the international health regulations specify that all countries should have core health system capacities. These capacities include laboratory capacities, surveillance capacities, a well-trained public health workforce, the ability to detect and respond to novel outbreaks quite quickly. And there's no way to do that without a strong national public health authority. I've worked with national public health authorities across the world, but particularly with the US CDC for many, many decades. And I've seen the importance of having a robust authority that has high expertise, is nimble, well-resourced, and actually works closely with the public health and the healthcare system in an integrated health system approach. Well, it's certainly true that in low resource countries, it's much more difficult to develop the kind of robust capabilities that you can see in a public health authority like Korea or Japan or the United States, Singapore, and other high income countries. But they still have a responsibility to develop core health system capacities under the international health regulations. That applies to both low and high income countries. And so, for a start, all countries should be spending a certain percentage of their gross national product on public health capacities. I know that, for example, in Africa, in the Abuja Declaration, African countries have promised to spend a strong amount of their national input, economic input into public health, and many countries have not met that goal. So I would hold countries accountable and responsible for investing what they can. Of course, many of them are going to need international health assistance from high-income countries like Korea, like Japan, like the United States, to actually help them develop their capacities. Yeah, well, the international health regulations requires a national coordinating mechanism and a national focal point. And it also specifies health system capacities and also provides for periodic evaluations through the Joint External Evaluation, and also, as I mentioned, the Global Health Security Agenda. So I think that uh, this has been thought through very carefully in the IHR. I was a member of the WHO IHR Review Committee for amendments to the international health regulations. And so I think there's been a lot of thought into aligning national health systems with international obligations and IHR obligations. The pandemic agreement has just been passed on May 25th, 2025, at the World Health Assembly, and it has not yet been adopted as a binding treaty. There has to be an intergovernmental working group negotiation over a pandemic, a pathogen access and benefit sharing system, a so-called PAB system, before it can be put up for signature and adoption. Nonetheless, I think the pandemic agreement does require some specific things at the national level. I can mention several of them, but the one that I would like to mention most is the One Health approach. It requires every country who's a signatory to the pandemic agreement to develop a national plan for preventing zoonotic spillovers at the animal, human, and environmental interface. I should mention that just yesterday I had an article in JAMA about the what the pandemic agreement means without the United States. Um, in my view, the failure of the United States to join the pandemic agreement and also its withdrawal from the World Health Organization makes the United States far weaker and it makes the world far weaker. I believe that global health security requires a strong, determined, um, and robust leadership from countries around the world, but particularly from the United States. The United States can be a great partner. Our scientific agencies are world class, including the CDC, the National Institutes of Health, and the Food and Drug Administration in the United States. So I hope very much that we will see the United States re-engage and also to reinstitute funding, not only funding for the World Health Organization, but also funding for global health assistance and international development assistance for health. I think those are really important for the United States to be fully engaged. Um, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Uh, with the United States not inside WHO, outside of the pandemic agreement at the World Health Organization, not one country dissented. And so I do believe that once the pathogen access and benefit sharing system is adopted this coming year, that the pandemic agreement will be open for signature, and many countries in the world, I hope a great number of countries will sign on. Um, it won't be perfect, but I do believe that it will make the world a stronger place and also a fairer place. It has very historic and transformational provisions in the pandemic agreement, particularly for equity, including diversified manufacturing of pandemic products, hardening supply chains and logistics, um, a technology transfer of the know-how to make pharmaceuticals and vaccines from the global north to the global south, and sharing of scientific information, which is crucial, and equitable distribution of the goods of pandemic products like vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics. Well, I would begin by saying that I have great admiration for what Korea is doing in the field of global health and global health security. Um, there are um, uh, so many contributions that Korea has made and will make. Let me start with the fact that you're one of the world's best performer during the pandemic, and really admirable. You also uh, were a standout, particularly uh, the Korean CDC. Um, this is amazing because in all countries, particularly in the United States, public health authorities lost public trust, but Korea CDC gained it. And so you have more public trust in your public health authority. I think that's magnificent and well deserved. At the same time, um, uh, uh, Korea CDC's, the Korean Parliament has been increasing funding for domestic public health. Again, a world leader in that regard. And while other countries are pulling back on development assistance for health, Korea is advancing. So I do believe you're a model for the world. I've been to Korea many times. I love the country. I love the public health spirit that you have. And I just feel very, very proud to be a close friend of yours, your country's, and the public health community and medical community in Korea. So I couldn't be more proud.
Thank you so much, Professor Goldstein, for your time and thoughtful insight.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your thoughtful and probing and important questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Goldstein, for your incredible, insightful perspectives. And thank you, Professor Song, for leading such an engaging discussions. Your expertise on these critical issues is invaluable as we navigate the evolving landscape of the global health securities. We are truly grateful for your time and the profound insights shared today, which will greatly contribute to GISCO's ongoing work and the future strategic developments. This concludes our GISCO expert interview. Thank you all for joining us.